Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten, and with me after a not so fun Wolves 108-105 loss to the Phoenix Suns, Leo, how you doing?
Time is a flat circle, Ryan, and I think this is proof that we're in a simulation, that we're just constantly in a matrix, deja vu, black cat walking by over and over because pretty much like the last handful of games, it's kind of been the same. So aside from that, though, Ryan, so let's go positive first before we jump into that. Doing all right, pretty good. We're in December. Full on now. I went tree shopping with my wife for the first time, and so I have no idea how that goes. And so I was like, I don't know which trees look good. They drop a lot of mess. My dog likes to smell it, so that's kind of cool. That's a good thing that I had going on. So yeah, what about you, Ryan? How's everything been going leading up to this Monday?
It's been good. We got the fake tree up. That's been the route we've gone. We tried the first year we had an apartment together. We went with the real tree. And it just kind of was a mess. We kind of didn't know what we were doing, and ever since we've gone with the fake tree. I don't know. Do you guys usually go with the real tree? You know, my parents always do the real tree.
I've never gone a real tree ever, even with my family. And my wife and I, we have been living in apartments for all the way until this year. And so now that we have a home, we're like, all right, we got to do the tree thing this year. But I think just the cost of the yearly cost of it, the mess of it, probably not going to do it all the time. But this year, I mean, we do have the full get up going on. And so for me as a weak Californian that doesn't know anything about outdoorsy stuff, I'm struggling. So feel free to drop any tips to me in my mentions on Blue Sky.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that reminds me, it wasn't our first year living in an apartment, but it was the first year we upgraded to like a big size apartment, which obviously is much easier to find in the Twin Cities than the LA greater area without breaking the bank. But yeah, we tried it, didn't work, just out of ease of, and having a dog like you mentioned, just they're sniffing around the needles. It's like, no, get away. And then like trying to bag it up and drag it down the hallway, which in house is different too. But yeah, it kind of felt like the Wolves. Speaking of trees, I guess is the
dragging things around
and
yeah.
dragging. Yeah, like I mentioned, Wolves. We're recording right after the Wolves lose 108-105 to the Phoenix Suns. Just kind of a frustrating loss after a series of 5 wins. It's kind of it's probably going to be one of those losses where it's just like I don't know. It's amazing how few times they've played good teams and how seldom they've played like 2 good teams in the span of even 3 or 4 games. It's just been a slog of really either, straight up bad teams or games like tonight against Phoenix where they don't have Devin Booker in the lineup. And it's not an excuse for their performance tonight, but I am starting to wonder. It's like, can we get some actual? I mean, it's annoying that they continue to kind of really this whole 6-game win streak. They haven't played like the team I think a lot of us think they can. And it'd be nice to play a couple good teams in a row where we can start to hopefully see what this team is actually made of, or maybe we'll get the opposite end of it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, we said at the start of the show, it's kind of a flat circle type of thing where you kept thinking that the Wolves are going to turn it on in the fourth, like we've seen in the second half, especially that we've seen in these last handful of games. And it felt like the Wolves would get within 3 so many times in that fourth quarter. It's like, all right, here it comes. Like, we're going to get a couple stops. There's a lot of Suns players in foul trouble. Dylan Brooks was really cooling off. It's like, all right, like, we're going to make that final run. We need to push ahead, but we just always never got as close as until one point, and that was at the very end of the game there where Ant took the easy 2 instead of trying to tie the game on a 3, and never got any closer than that. And it just sucks because, yeah, as you said, you want to say, oh, well, they lost to bad teams. At this point, is Phoenix a bad team? I mean, they're a plus 500 team, and they played hard all season, even with
Phoenix, no Booker. I mean, I get it. They're 14-10, but like, I'm not. I get what you're saying. Like, they aren't a bad team, and I would agree with you. But like, ultimately, like, the standard isn't trying to beat Phoenix. It's like so much higher than that. So it's like.
Yeah. I get you. I think where I'm going with it is that they're kind of this iteration of the Wolves, or this version of the Suns is kind of the anti-Wolves a little bit, where they don't have a superstar player out there. I'm not going to call Dylan Brooks a superstar. Maybe Colin Gillespie can be a superstar, but this iteration of the Suns don't have a superstar, and you don't know where they're coming from, and they're playing like with full effort. And that seems to be the type of teams that the Wolves really struggle against. So whether or not they're missing players or not, it's just when they don't know who they're supposed to be guarding, or they underestimate them, or whatever the case may be. And so who knows if the Wolves are playing teams that are more full strength or more dangerous, say like the Rockets or the Nuggets some more, or whoever else is kind of up there, the Knicks. Maybe the Wolves are just getting throttled in these games by 20 some points, and we're having a whole different conversation. And the Wolves, shouldn't even belong in the conversation. But the fact of the matter is, the Wolves have been, for the most part, beating these teams, and they're supposed to be, and losing to teams that are above 500. So it just sucks. Yeah, this is definitely a game where it was not fun to watch. There was not a lot of great, like, oh yeah, this is good. Even at the end of the Clippers games, like, all right, you saw some good things there, leading up to that turnover fest at the end, and even the Pelicans games at the you had some good parts of it. This one just kind of seemed to miss any good parts in total.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a theme of these past 6 games. Early on, defensively, they're just not they're not playing the quality of defense that this team can do, and they even show it. I've been kind of keeping track of the stat lately. Coming into the night, so these numbers don't include tonight. They're 29th in defense over the past 5 games in the first half. And anytime, like, I'm quoting 5-game sample size and then cutting it in half of the first half. So like there is like an element of small sample size. But when I bring up these stats, it's more to analyze back. It's not projecting. I don't think this is a trend that's going to stick, right? But it shows you kind of where this team is at right this moment, that they're in the first half of the past 5 games before tonight. They're 29th in defense, and I got to imagine it won't get much better after tonight. And coming into the night, they were second in defense in the second half. To me, that just shows like they are coming into these games with the wrong mindset. They're not defending like they should. In the past 5 games, they've been able to, before tonight, they were able to go on a huge run in each of the 5 games. San Antonio, to start that fourth quarter, they went on a big run. Boston, really that whole second half, they were dominating them. Even they gave up that late run to Boston and then responded immediately. The 2 New Orleans games were won in the fourth quarter by giant runs. And then last night against the Clippers, same thing. They go on a big run to start the fourth quarter, and that's what kind of gives them any sort of cushion. And tonight, that just didn't happen. And to be honest, the opposite happened. The Phoenix scored the first 7 points of the fourth quarter, and to me, that was the moment of the game where I was like, I had a feeling they were going to lose, because the start of the fourth quarter was where they were winning the previous 5 games. And it's frustrating that they can't find this level of consistency from game to game, from night to night. We'll talk about OKC, and it's probably an unfair standard, but it's just like you watch that team like that, and they're so unbelievably consistent with what they do, not just winning games, obviously, but like just everything they do. And they're not the only team that does that. And defensively, the Wolves, they can't be this sporadic from half to half, game to game, quarter to quarter, like that.
Yeah.
You just got no shot. And what a lot of writers and myself have gone back to was questions that were asked on media day of, do you need to, like, this type of stuff, does that need to be set in stone before making the playoffs, or is it something you can find throughout the season? And pretty much all the players and staff talked about, like, these are the type of things you have to have worked out in the middle of the season so that you get to the playoffs ready. And it feels like that's just not happening. So many of the key players on this team are not performing well enough on the defensive end from the start of games, and it's causing games like this. We'll talk about the poor shooting in the game. Is that variance? Sure. But like, you open yourself up to that when, to start the game, you're giving up easy offensive rebounds. You're turning the ball over. The perimeter defense is just not nearly good enough. And it's just, I with any one game, I try not to like go fly off the handle and be like, well, they need to trade everyone. They need to fire this person. They need to, and I'm not there yet either, because there's just no reason to be. But it's the last 6 games have been concerning, that their mind, to me, and the players themselves have talked about this, their mindset coming into these games has just not been right from the get-go. And it's been a good sign that they've picked the 5 games before tonight. They picked themselves up and won those games. But I don't think it's a surprise that just because they won the previous 5 games coming back late, that that doesn't really mean that the 6th game is going to go the same way, and it didn't.
Yeah, they gave up 61 points against the Suns in the first half today, and then 47 in the second half. So, I think that trend, like you said, is going to continue. It's extremely frustrating because it's hard to really pinpoint. I mean, defense is that way. In the game of basketball, you can't pinpoint one player didn't play well, so the defense completely fell apart. Now we could put a moratorium on the Rudy Gobert talk until later in this episode, but it has to be a collective thing, and you can't let. I feel so often the offense affects the defense on this team, and
Yeah.
it's a sign of immaturity for the team. And you would think that a team with continuity that has made long runs and knows each other. I mean, this is not an unfamiliar team. They should be better than that. I mean, when you look at the offensive rating, I mean, I know Ryan and I like to joke about, Ryan's betting on the defense being better than the offense. I'm betting on the offense being better than the defense. Well, look at the offensive side of the last 5 games. Their offensive rating in the first half is 114.2, which is 12th best in the league. In the second half, their offensive rating skyrockets up to 132.7. That's first in the league. Now, it's hard to draw a direct correlation to that, but you got to affect. I mean, we've seen it. The eye test matches it. When the Wolves aren't hitting shots, they're kind of like it's igniting the opponent's transition and fast break opportunities that we saw mostly against those Pelicans games. Are just running on the Wolves off long misses or whatever the case may be. But they're not bringing it on defense at the same side, so it's extremely frustrating. You don't really know the one person. Whether a lot of people like to blame Finch, say you're the head of the snake, you're the coach, you got to make the adjustments. I'll talk about Jalen Clark later as well too. But you have to play more defensive personnel or get the stars to play more defensively in the way that they're able to. So we've seen them being able to initiate it, and I feel like, again, they're letting things dictate on the offensive end how they're playing on the defensive end. And so, what's the answer to that? Maybe play harder teams where, they have to lock in on defense first and then worry about the offense second. I don't know if that's, what's going to happen because they don't have a super tough schedule coming up, but we're going to find out because the Wolves have really turned. This is no longer a trend. This is definitely, a foundation of what this season's team is. Now, can that change later? Yeah, maybe. But right now, it's not just, it's a small sample size because we've seen this for, a weeks long stretch now.
Yeah. And you mentioned like trying to find someone to blame. I think like you, it's not just one person. It's not just one idea. I mean, you point out Gobert and his ejection is obviously looms large in this game. I probably fair to say they win this game. If Rudy's in the game in the second half, they certainly would have helped a whole bunch. But Rudy is not the reason why the defense has been so starkly different in the first and second half.
Yeah,
and
even look at the Spurs game. Like Rudy barely played in that fourth quarter when they completely took over. So yeah, I agree with you.
And it's not, I like ignoring or couching the discussion of the ejection itself. It's not even like to put down Rudy and be like, well, this team can defend without him. No, I don't think the second half was a good example that they cannot do that. But like tonight is a good example of once they fix the defensive problems in the second half. Against the Clippers, Rudy didn't play a lot in the second half and the defense was night and day. They're defending better in the second half despite not because Rudy isn't out there. It's like in spite of not having Rudy out there who fouled out in that Clippers game. Yeah. I don't know what it is because I mentioned this the last pod I did with Brandon last week. It's like I don't like getting into these players' head of like mentality of like they're not trying hard enough, like they're not mentally tough enough. Basketball, I really don't like that stuff. But like they've been saying it in the locker room, like they haven't been playing their best basketball. They are not taking some of these teams seriously. At least that's what Nas said out in New Orleans. I just coming off of last year's West Finals, I've brought this up before. I thought Game 4 was a real opportunity in that series to like make it a series and like really come back. Especially you watched how like their defensive effort in Game 3 of that series was just amazing. Top down roster, but especially Ant. And I just feel like they didn't have it just completely they sunk back into just like good enough defense in Game 4 and they lost a semi-close game because of it. If they would have, maybe that's not replicable. Maybe they won Game 3 by like 50 points. Obviously that aspect is certainly not what you're expecting, but like the consistency night to night is just not there. And I thought it was a big reason. The biggest reason they lost that OKC series is because they just had no chance to win on the road in that series. But the next one I just thought was like that mindset of like just the consistency night to night. And maybe it's unfair to judge them by the OKC standard because like they might win 70 games, probably will. But I just, this team is not like championship or bust or whatever, but it's also a little bit like they're just not even close to that right now. And
Yeah.
I don't know how they find the defensive consistency, but it's just like so far away right now. And I know I should look up like what, I don't think them giving up 108 is like representative of, like, usually if you give up 108 points, like that's probably like an
Yeah.
average defensive night. I think if I were to sit down and do the possession math or look it up, it was not a great defensive night for them.
Yeah, I think if we want to be really literal with the word consistency and bringing it night to night, I mean they're being consistent right now, consistently bad night to night in the effort that they're bringing in, and it's that quarter to quarter. Like, how do they translate that, right? And it's extremely frustrating. And so, I poke fun at it because it's like, at what point is there going to be a little bit more leadership? Again, it's not just one person; it has to be everyone that they have to come together. Is it another dinner that Mike Conley's going to organize? Or, you can only fire that shot off so many times, and I don't think any of the Wolves fans are clamoring for there's an immediate remedy in the trade market somewhere. Maybe Kyle Anderson can bring it back the vibes and punch Rudy Gobert back into sense, or whatever the case is. There's a lot of adjustments that need to be made. It's a long season. I almost want to put out there that, despite the Wolves playing, as frustratingly as they have, I don't want to just scoreboard it, but you look at the Wolves saying, it's like, is this the worst 15-9 team, the Wolves have ever been? This is the worst 15-9 Timberwolves team you've ever seen. And so again, I'm not trying to move the goalposts to say like, hey, well, they have above 500 record, it's fine, don't worry about it, because there certainly are concerns. But yeah, if we are going to raise expectations that this team wants to continue to be on the right track, not just like, okay, well, we got 2 Western Conference Finals, let's go ahead and chill out in the first round for a couple years. Like, they have to fix these, in my opinion, very fixable things. These aren't like, oh, well, they don't have shooters. It's not like, oh, they don't have defenders. Like, they have the personnel there. It's just, yeah, it's between the ears type of thing.
Yeah, and it's not just with defense. It's not just one player. I thought like
Yeah.
Randall was not good defensively tonight. Jaden wasn't nearly good enough against matchups he should dominate. Rudy, before he got ejected, I thought was giving up lanes to the rim, although I would probably blame the perimeter defense. Dante was not good. Ant, especially, just so many rebounds he's giving up by not boxing someone out.
Yeah.
Nas was getting blown by at any chance. Mike's defense has obviously taken a hit. I probably would have played, we'll talk about the young guys, but like Jalen Clark only getting 12 minutes kind of feels like a missed opportunity as well. I don't know what it is. And it just kind of, I think I'm still very, even they just lost the tiebreaker to the Suns tonight. If the Wolves do end up missing the top 6 and are in the play-in tournament tonight, will be probably the 1A reason for that. I don't think that's likely. I still think the Wolves are going to soar into the top 6. Well, I mean, if they want the second or third seed, that feels like also like a mile away at this point. It's just the perimeter, the ball containment from the start of the game is just not there. Like the attention to detail on rebounding, all of that stuff is not there. And last year, it feels very similar to last year right now. And that may be a good thing. They very easily could get, I mean, their bracket right now would be Lakers and Rockets as the 2 and 3, basically the same exact thing as last year. They certainly could make the West Finals if OKC's 1 and Denver is 4 or 5. But in terms of like beating OKC or Denver, it's just that I'm not, obviously, like, it's too early. I feel like I did that last year. You count them out and they come back, and certainly they could do that this year. But something needs to change. They get 4 days off here until they play in Golden State on Friday. So hopefully they can try to hammer out whatever this first half defense thing is, because it's been a trend despite them winning.
Yeah, like if you think chasing around Colin Gillespie is tough, I mean, Steph Curry's eyeing a return in that Warriors game against the Wolves on Friday. So, there's going to be no excuse to, oh, well, they didn't get up for that game, because the Warriors are coming for revenge for this game. Absolutely. And when Steph Curry got to miss, I don't think it's a coincidence that Steph Curry's targeting a return against the Wolves, where he missed, all but that first game against Wolves in the playoffs last season. So yeah, it's a little nerve wracking, but again, they're gonna have to face the music, and we'll see what happens. They're either gonna crumble or they're gonna meet the challenge.
Yeah, and last thing before we kind of move on to broader topics, I think obviously the Wolves didn't shoot well tonight, and they missed a ton of wide open shots. They were 11 of 42 from 3-pointers. I mean, we can play the game if they're 13 of 42, they win the game. And that's certainly true. And obviously, Rudy getting ejected obviously is something that won't always happen in the game too. But I think all the stuff we talked about before this is why I'm not really willing to like go down that road and talk about the shooting variance as the reason for the loss, because like that's what you open yourself up to when you're not playing like the proper game from the start. And the other thing is like they have had far more shooting variance. I keep track of this stuff. They have had far more shooting variance wins than they have shooting variance losses. Synergy keeps track of like they have like this shot estimated number, and it's basically just shot quality. It's like what types of shot did you get, including like defender space, time on the shot clock, was it a pull up or from a pass, basically all that stuff. Ignoring like Steph Curry is always going to be at the top of this number because he's going to outperform what this metric says he should. But for a team wide, it's a pretty good number to use. And I kind of marked down shooting variance wins, shooting variance losses. Basically, if you normalize to like the average shot output for that game, how does the score change and reflect? Like, so the Clippers game, for example, the Wolves had a slightly solid shooting night. The Clippers had an average shooting night. So in a 3-point game, like that was enough to consider it a shooting variance win. It's it's pretty rudimentary the way I'm doing it, but even so, like there's been a lot of games where they've been on the good side. I'll list them out. The opener in Portland shot like crap. And I think a lot of people just look at the 3-point shooting number for like shooting variance stuff, but they ignore like the mid-range jumpers. Like for example, the Suns made 36% of the threes. I bet they'll grade out as overperforming their shot quality because they had a good number of tough contested twos. But like Trailblazers opening night, like the Wolves that was a shooting variance win. The Trailblazers had the better shot match that night. Other games, they early in the year they beat the Hornets and the Nets on the road. Wolves shut the lights out those games. Hornets and Nets couldn't hit the brown side of the bar. When they beat the Jazz a couple nights later, the Jazz had one of the worst shooting performances you'll see. And now I'm not saying like you can go look for reasons why those happening. It's not, these numbers are not meant to be taken like just in a vacuum, obviously. Like there's a reason, there's a reason the Jazz and these, like I'm listing out these bad teams, they shot well, they don't have good shooters, and the Wolves do. But on the flip side, I'm just not willing to talk about tonight as a shot variance game because you can look back at other games, and I would also argue like the context of this game, not every shot was perfectly in rhythm, there's a lot more context, and I just like they've shot the lights out basically all year. And so if that's the only way you're going to be able to win, you're going to open yourself up to these shooting variants. You have to find other ways to win games besides shooting the lights out. So it's just not, I'm just not willing to go down the shooting variance road because I just don't, for at least tonight, I don't find it very productive.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's fair. Unless you're going to be the Boston Celtics and just jack up inordinate amount of threes all the time, you're really going to lean into it. You can't just rely on that as your only recipe. So, yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the second topic. Applies to this game, but more broadly, and has just been getting double teamed even stronger than he really has before. I remember last year around this time, he was really, you mentioned Boston. They played Boston roughly 12 months ago, and he was just not, he was having a hard time figuring out the doubles, making the right pass, when to get his game going. Certainly his teammates weren't helping him, which reminds you of tonight. But he's been really, overall, with playing through these really hard doubles, like New Orleans, what has he been like waiting for the scream to come? They were just playing up at the
half court,
basically. He's played pretty well through it all. I think obviously the second New Orleans game wasn't great from him, and even the Clippers game last night, I don't think he just didn't shoot the ball well. But like tonight was offensively, he was just phenomenal. 15 of 21 from the field, 40 points. It's his Will Graggett from Sports Illustrated tweeted this out. It's his most efficient 40-point game since the Memphis loss in Game 3, the infamous double 20-point loss. Which, very quick aside, I hate when people bring up that they never blew the first 20-point lead. It's like a common misnomer from that game. That first 20-point lead Memphis never tied the game. It got down to 2, so that it was never a double blown 20-point lead. They just did it once in a game they should have won, but that's an aside. Your superstar scores 40 points and misses 6 shots. That's just a game you should win. And the reason they didn't was basically everyone aside from Julius Randle was just dreadful. Jaden McDaniels, 1 of 7 shots, 0 of 5 from 3. Again, we already kind of touched on the shooting variant stuff, but Jaden McDaniels shouldn't be shooting two shots from inside the arc in a game. Who is guarding Jaden McDaniels on that? That should have been a bigger focus. And the offense was really bogged down the entire night. Phoenix's physicality did well there, and the Wolves really don't do well with physical defenses, and you've seen that struggle against OKC. Rudy played well in the offense until he got ejected. Dante, 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3. Just a really bad shooting night. I think his 3-pointers were a good example of not in rhythm, not necessarily good looks that he's normally used to. Obviously, he missed a couple wide open ones. Nas, 2 of 10 from 3, misses his pair of 2-point shots. Mike, 0 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3. Basically every other key player aside from Randall just had a really poor shooting night and really poor offensive night. And that's why these teams are doubling Ant so hard, as the Wolves have not been able to find as good a consistent release valve in those plays. Honestly, it's been Rudy on the short roll a lot, which I've liked to see, but that there's going to be inconsistencies there. It's a tough thing with Ant because you want to see him score, and games like tonight, I think he can continue to score like this. I think if teams are going to continue to double him like this, there just needs to be a little bit more on the back end, to keep teams honest. They shouldn't be able to take the ball out of his hands so much. It's not really it's more focused on the games like the Clippers or the New Orleans games where they were effectively able to take him out of the game for stretches. But the Wolves need to get Naz Reid into better rhythms. He's been too inconsistent this year. Jaden McDaniels was great in the Clippers game, and then tonight really was not a part of the offense. So it's kind of, it goes back to consistency that they have not found that rhythm really at any point this year.
Yeah, Ant talked after the game today. Dane Moore asked him about the fact that he took 9 mid-range shots today, so non-restricted area 2s. He went 7 of 9 for him, and he said that, to be honest with you, I want to take more of them. A lot of times I second guess in mid-range. I'm in the middle of trying to make the right play, so maybe I should just shoot the ball. I should just shoot it every time. I should just shoot it. Obviously, he's a little bit frustrated over the last 2 at the time, but I fear that we don't want to breed this old school style and just start jacking up 2s instead of 3s. But yeah, I mean, he was really great today, and I think that's where that whole, I hate this narrative, but it's true, where the lack of a point guard is kind of coming into play. If Ant is bringing up the ball every time, it's easier to double team the guy when he has the ball and he's trying to walk up the court. If you have someone else bringing up the ball initiating, which sometimes it's Julius and he's doing okay at it, but Dante kind of seems unable to do that. Where, if Ant's able to get off the ball, it's a lot harder to double team a guy where you don't know when he's going to get the ball. It's not going to move the defense as much, where, the defense is setting up to trap him, at half court or take it out of him, beyond the 3-point line. And so I think, that is something that the team has to do to help him. And maybe that's a, Chris Finch thing, maybe it's a Tim Conley thing, but that's, I think, where it's rearing its head. Now, I do agree with you. I think he is making a lot of the simple right reads. He's obviously not the type of playmaker that LeBron or Luka is, or even, Jokic, where they can make that 2 to 3 steps ahead kind of pass right now. He's getting off the easy pass, which, again, baby steps. That's better than him just trying to force a bad shot over the double team. But yeah, I think we are seeing a little bit more nuanced version of him, which is good. This is part of that process of him growing into that next MVP level caliber type of player we want to see. But what's that next move? Because teams are kind of seeing this. Is there's no way that other teams aren't seeing what they're doing to take Ant, what the Clippers did to take Ant out of the game, and saying, okay, well, we could do that too. When you look at teams like, again, you say the Thunder or even the Rockets, teams that have a lot more impressive, as you can say, defensive personnel, it's going to be a lot easier for them to have multiple guys to throw at Ant to be able to take the ball out of his hands. And so, he's have to learn how to beat it without just making a simple play just by passing to a guy on his left. He's going to be able to figure out whether it's getting downhill a little bit faster, whether it's coming off the ball, running action for him off the ball a little bit more. I mean, he's a great catch and shoot 3-point maker. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for that, but I am encouraged by how he's been handling it so far.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, like I mentioned, last year was, there's a large stretch of time where it was just like, I don't think the Wolves have the personnel and has the ability right now to come through it. And like Ant always does, he found the cheat code, or he found the path forward to finding consistent play. You mentioned point guard, and I think I agree with you right now. They need some sort of point guard in this role. Unfortunately, it might be Mike's time to not be in the rotation, or might in the same role. Really bad tonight. I disagreed with Finch bringing him back in. I get he's trying to. I get the reliance on Mike, but Bones was playing better than him, and I get the hesitance with Bones. Just because he's 4 of 6 from 3 in the night, you don't necessarily expect him to knock the next one down, and maybe the Bones shoots. If Bones gets the ball, it's going to go up there. And for tonight, that's better, but sometimes it's worse.
Yeah, I mean, right with Bones. Sorry, I mean with Bones, it's a thing where it's like you're getting at least the offense with them. And tonight you were. I mean, not every night he's going to shoot 4 or 6, but tonight you're getting the offense, and you're getting the mistakes you're worried about with Bones. But with Mike, it's like you're not even getting any semblance of offense from him. Like, yeah, he had a good drop off to Jalen, later on, but he can kind of do simple action with Rudy. But when Rudy's not in the game, I don't really know what Mike's role is out there to initiate offense, because he's not throwing it to Julius, who's like going to be lumbering down the paint, on a hard roll. Like, that's not the way he plays. And so I do think that, that Mike conversation is going to be a tough one, because we all love Mike. We love what he's brought to us for the past couple years. But yeah, I mean, he's being attacked on defense. I mean, he had one good stop where, he drew, I think it was Grayson Allen's 5th foul of the game. It was, he came up with a scrappy play like that. But again, you got to do a lot more. You got to play Jalen Clark level defense, or Jaden McDaniels level defense, if you're going to be a complete offensive zero on the other end. So yeah, it was tough watching it for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, is Mike Conley washed? I don't know. Obviously, he's not the player he was a couple seasons ago. But I also just think, like, the Mike Rudy pick and roll, which was a staple of their team a couple years ago, is just like, that's not any. They do not run that anymore. And I think, like, if you're gonna have Mike on the floor, he needs, to a certain extent, he needs the ball in his hand. You need to be running actions through him, letting him set the table for others, and like, that's just not how they run it. I think back to the start of the season where they bring Dante in the starting lineup, like, right before opening night, and I just wonder, like, what went into that decision? Why wasn't it chosen earlier? Why that is like a confusing aspect of it. I don't know. It's been, quality Mike games have been few and far between. I mean, I guess even one game ago, the Clippers, he was in down the stretch and was a big reason why they didn't end up winning that game. I just didn't think tonight was like a Mike night to bring him in. And
watching him get stripped by Jordan Goodwin around half court in a half court situation, it's just, and then he couples it up by fouling him. I mean, it's just,
it was a kickball, but
it was a kickball or whatever. It was a dead ball situation where it's just really sad to see, because, like, as you said, like, that pick and roll, it's like when he's at that point where the defense knows that we can just kind of leave him, like, he's a reliable corner 3-point shooter, for the most part this season. But even then, it's like, and it sucks because I think you were talking about this with Brandon on the last episode about basketball IQ. Like, what is the basketball IQ of this team? And Mike is a guy where he is a smart basketball player. His mind is there, but his body is not there. He cannot convert on what he needs to. He cannot stand up defenses in a pesky way that he has been able to. You can't fight around as much as he used to. It's kind of the inverse of a Russell Westbrook, where it's like Russell's body is still there, but Russell Westbrook's like basketball IQ is just completely out the window. And with Mike, it's kind of the opposite, where his mind is there, but his just body cannot keep up anymore.
Yep, and I don't know what to do. I mean, I guess we can move on to our next topic. Bones Hyland. Maybe that's an outcome, but Bones is not like the same floor general type that Mike is. Bones is probably closer to a shooting guard than anything else, to be honest.
Right.
But he was solid tonight. 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 6 and 3. Two of the threes were like in. Two of the made threes were like just in rotation where the ball swung to him. A couple of them were pull up pick and rolls for him, where he just stepped into a 3-pointer with the big dropping. That might be an option, but I think the bigger story is who didn't play in this game, which was Terrence Shannon only playing 4 minutes, and Rob getting a DNP. It's been a theme all year. TJ and Rob have just not been effective in their minutes on the floor. Do I think that they've been giving? I don't like. Either play these guys or don't. I really don't like the 4-minute stretches, and then if they play bad, they don't get it. Like, it's just, you got no shot to build up any run doing that.
Yeah.
I get that it's like a chicken or the egg or whatever. Like last year, a lot of people were saying like you need to play these guys so they can get minutes, and now they're playing them, and now that's not working. I get that it's like it's complicated, but it's also I don't think you're getting any sort of anything.
Do you remember when Finch said about the whole Rob thing before? I think it was during preseason last year, where he said you're gonna get, every third game you're gonna get a good Rob game. You're gonna get a bad game, you're gonna get and then you get a wash game. It's like, how silly does that kind of look? And I'm not saying that this is who Rob is forever. I mean, the kid's 20, and this is probably the worst he's gonna be ever as a basketball player, in the NBA at least. And so it just seems so far off now, where it's like you're praying for 1 of 10 games is a good game for him now. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, from Rob, really have not seen an extended. I mean, he hasn't had a good 3-game stretch in his entire career to this point, and really, I don't think certainly this year has not even had an all that impressive game. TJ had 1 game against Oklahoma City, and the rest of maybe he's hurt, maybe he's not. I don't know. I just don't think playing him 4 minutes is really doing anything, and I think to a lesser extent, Jalen Clark only played 12 minutes. I thought that was a lost opportunity when your perimeter defense was so lacking. Jalen Clark's a perfect player to put in for that, and to play him only 12 minutes, I don't think. I don't like. It kind of goes back to Mike. To me, that's if this is the role you're going to give Mike Conley, I don't think it's worth playing him. But I also would be hesitant to give Mike the ball more, because I don't think that's really gone well. Maybe giving him more, like you mentioned, that the turnover at half court, like you'd imagine that's the one place you would get value from Mike, and you're not getting it. I don't think, similar to the young guys, I don't think Mike is being put in a great situation, and he's not performing either. I would prefer to go down to just a straight 9-man rotation, where it's just the 5 starters: Nas, Mike, Jalen Clark, and then one of Bones, TJ, and Rob. Tonight it was Bones.
Well, they played 11.
The 10-man rotation
11 people. They played 11 today if you include Joe Ingles.
Yeah, the Slob Wizard is not necessarily. Yeah. I'm counting that tonight, but yeah, I mean, it's just like, and then from like a value or from a future standpoint, like Shannon was supposed to be like the big breakout player, right? He was awesome in Summer League, and I certainly am not like thinking it's impossible to get back to that, and maybe it's likely that he will, but at least in the short term, it's the second apron bill is not going away. And a lot of these other teams like San Antonio, Houston, certainly Oklahoma City, they have ways of getting out of, like, when their guys start getting expensive, they have all these picks that they can win inevitably when they can't pay for Caruso, Hartenstein. The Spurs have, like, they can replenish those guys just using picks to find cheap salaries or whatever. So the Wolves, if they're going to keep competing like this, they need guys like Clark, Shannon, and Rob, and eventually Beringer. Like, these are the guys that you're going to, like, 3 or 4 of them have to be good. And at least right now, it's for Shannon and Rob, it's been a really frustrating start. And I'm at the point where I would like to see Jalen Clark play like 20 minutes a night every night. And I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused why that isn't happening. While I understand they're trying to, there's only so many minutes to go around.
Yeah. I mean, with TJ, to kind of put a ball on that, I mean, I feel like the thing that's really holding him back right now is the fouling. He's really got he got a bad shake of it. I think there was that review that Grayson Allen kind of got in his favor because TJ had his hand like kind of wrapped around him. But TJ needs to learn not to foul. I mean, he picked up 3 fouls in those 4 minutes. And I just remember, I just still have that image burned into my head, that Sacramento Kings game where DeMar just got TJ to foul him on like 4 shooting fouls that game. And so I don't know who he needs to work with to kind of iron that out, but that seems to be the reason why Finch is not kind of giving him that trust. Kind of fun fact: TJ is actually a month and a half older than Bones Hyland, and Bones Hyland's in his 4th year in the NBA right now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a thing where we'll talk about Jalen Clark. I'm going to highlight him in my next section here in Apex Alpha. Kind of spoiler alert, but with Bones though, I mean, it was really feast or famine with them out there, and at least you're getting the feast. I think with players sometimes like TJ and Rob, you're not even getting a feast. You're getting an appetizer or famine with them. I think with today with Bones, I mean, we talked about the shooting, but I mean, we have to talk about the other side where late in the game, right in the second half, he had a turnover where he threw it like 90 miles an hour at Dante DiVincenzo, who was not even looking in transition. That was like kind of a key turnover. He had another one where he basically turned it over twice. He got away with the travel, dribbling into the free throw line, kind of dragged his feet, and then he literally, it was one of those like he knew he got away with the travel, so he tried to get rid of the ball as fast as he can, just kind of coughed it up. And again, that was also at a tough spot, but credit to him. I mean, he's not a rookie. He knows to play through it. He came back and he hit a three just shortly right after there. So, I am curious to see about that, but it's like, is this really what Finch is going to do? Where it's like, all right, I'm going to play Bones Highland once every 20 games and give him like minute. Like, is that really a recipe to even figure out what we have in Bones? I'm not team Bones in terms of, all right, he's a guy that has to be the, 8th or ninth guy on the rotation right now. But we're going to try him. You have to try him for more than just like one game. I'm not saying he has to be super rigid, where it has to be only these guys, but it has to be more than, like you said, just a couple minutes at a time here or there, or a random game once every like 10 or 15 games here. So
Yep. Well, let's talk about our Apex Alphas, leaders of the pack this week. Both of us kind of got tripped up here. I had written down before the game Jaden McDaniels is my Apex Alpha, and to a certain extent, I will keep that after one bad game against Phoenix, because in the Clippers again on Saturday, he was just one of the best games of probably his career. And really, this recent stretch he's been before tonight was playing really good basketball on both ends. 27 points. This is the Clippers game. 27 points, 10 of 13 shooting, hit all 3 of his threes, a pair of steals and a block. Like, this is I talked about like the assets with the young guys. Jaden McDaniels turning into like a real like second or third scorer on a really good team, that type of player. That's exactly what this team needs. Especially if they're going to make some sort of shake it up trade or whatever. That type of Jaden performance is what they need more often. If they can get it a little bit more consistently, that'd be great. So I like your pick that you'll talk about coming up. I'm going to strike Jaden McDaniels as my Apex Alpha and just go with Bones, just because this team desperately needs point guard stretch. And even if it's just like his second solid game of the year, other than the opener in Portland, they not going to complain about someone knocking down shots where he was the only one that could do so tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest and say that I've been a little bit skeptical of that Jaden McDaniels evolution that we were hoping to see, that we saw earlier, especially when Ant was out. But I mean, I'll be more than happy to eat crow when he plays like he did against the Clippers. I mean, he was one mid-range jumper away from capping that off with the game winner. It ended up being Naz Reid instead that hit that three off the offensive rebound. And so, yeah, and again, good to see Busy Bones. We'll throw a bone to Bones on this week. So for me, the candidate I was going to go with as well prior to this Clippers game, prior to this Suns game, was going to be Naz Reid. Naz has been playing really, really well. He averaged in his last 3 games leading up to this 18.7 points on 52.8% shooting to go along with 7 rebounds a game, 5 assists. I mean, he hit that huge 3 in the corner off the offensive rebound that he got for the team that kind of sealed it over there. And so he had a huge opportunity today. I mean, he started off really ice cold. I think he was 1 of 6 or 1 of 7 to start the game. And then right when Rudy gets ejected, which we'll talk about next, you kind of think like, okay, well, here we go, Nas. Like, this is your chance, dude. You're gonna get all the minutes you want playing against a relatively small lineup. I mean, Mark Williams is a big dude, but aside from that, I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't have been playing well. But he just completely kind of, for lack of a better word, shits the bed. I mean, he goes over 2 of 10 from three, which is not acceptable. I mean, you look at a lot of the threes that Nas took were fairly open, as well as Dante DiVincenzo. They hit some they had some out of rhythm 3-point attempts, but it seems like all their misses were huge. It was like in the fourth quarter they were trailing by 3 or they were trailing by 1. Where it's like you hit that 3, they go up, and they're just kind of soul sucking misses. Where it's like, all right, like you're open. This is the shot we got for you, and you just kind of mess it up. So instead of Nas Reed, unfortunately, I'm going to go with Jalen Clark. We just sung his praises earlier. I think as of right now, I wrote in my notes, he's a player that makes me want to gouge my eyes out the least when he's on the court. He's just making these crazy hustle plays, whether it's getting offensive rebounds. He had a unfortunate review that he kind of signaled for in the first half that lost the Wolves their challenge. In the first quarter, you kind of got to take the L on that one, Jalen Clark, because he asked for it. But, there's that stat that's been kind of making the rounds prior to even including today's game included. Jalen Clark, when he plays 15 minutes or more this season, the Wolves are 11-0, and today he played 12 minutes, unfortunately, which sucks because he was a positive plus minus as well. And you mentioned a bunch of reasons why he should have been playing more. We needed the perimeter defense from him. He wasn't making a whole lot of mistakes, and again, I do think same issue that it's a matter of time before he's going to be playing 20 minutes a game. And again, it's not more evident now than ever with the loss of, someone like Nikhil. And again, he's not the same player Nikhil is, but that defensive intensity that he brings, those hustle plays that, I think a lot of us, expecting myself, thought that we are going to get from Dante. Crashing the offensive glass, getting a second chance point, making a diving play to save the ball out of bounds. I mean, Dante hasn't been doing that as much as I thought he would. Instead, it's been Jalen Clark. So, yeah, I got to give my praises to Mr. Crime Stopper himself, Clark County.
Awesome. Let's move on to Play of the Week, and I'm just going to spoil both of our picks, which is Rudy Gobert, who got ejected from today's game, which is always frustrating in a close game. But this has unfortunately become a trend for Rudy early on this year, and Dane Moore tweeted about it. I think he pinpointed what happened. So to start, Rudy Gobert gets a flagrant 2 foul. Mark Williams goes up with a shot. Rudy forearms shivers him in the chest while he's going up. The Allen and Jim Pete on the broadcast seemed to disagree with the officials that it should have been a flagrant 2. They thought it should have been a flagrant 1. I don't know about you. I had zero issue with them ejecting Rudy from that game. Yeah. If that's on the floor, if Mark Williams is on the ground and Rudy does that, then sure, that's a flagrant 1. But it's just like, it's too dangerous of a play. You can't shove a guy purposely, very clearly on purposely, with your forearm while he's going up for a shot. That can lead to a lot of bad things. And it's just, when I mentioned Dane Moore figured out a possession too early, Rudy got hit in the head by Mark Williams, and that was called a flagrant 1. And I think Rudy really doesn't like getting hit on the head, and it seems to emotionally get to him or something, because he often seems to return the favor when that happens. And it's just like, that can't happen. And now he's up to this is his 4th flagrant foul and his 2nd flagrant 2, which gives him 5 flagrant points. And so on his next flagrant, similar to Ant Laster with technicals, he'll get suspended for the following game. And like, it's one thing, I don't know, it's just it's far too unprofessional from a supposed leader of this team. They need him out there. Maybe it's the frustrations with, he fouled out against the Clippers. He got sat down in earlier games and didn't play down the stretch. Maybe it's frustrations with that. And I know a lot of people feel like, well, then just like, what, trade him? They don't need him. But you watch the defensive effectiveness while he's not out there, and it's just rim runs to the lane all game long. And I get, like, if you trade Rudy, you're probably with the idea of bringing in another big or whatever. But
yeah,
the reason the Wolves defense is anywhere near the top 10 is because of Rudy. And so if you're letting him go, but it's just like, you can't have it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, that type of stuff just can't happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah, Rudy Gobert is my prey of the week as well, too, because I think Finch talked about this. It was last season or the season. I think it was last season where he said that this is a team of a lot of emotional players on it. And I think at first you think of when Jaden gets mad and he's throwing Klay Thompson to the ground or getting in Jeremy Sohan's face, or you think of Nas Reed getting mad and trying to start a fight with Ron Holland or whatever. You think of Rudy Gobert at first, and you think, oh, he's a relatively calm dude. You think you see him in the pressers and media, he's very calm, always kind of poised. Kind of keeps to himself for the most part, but he is a dude that has a history of just kind of lacking composure when it comes to like people disrespecting him. Whether 2 seasons ago in the Wolves, the awesome defensive year Wolves, they played the Thunder, I believe it was, and Kendrick Williams, who's a known agitator, I think got tangled up with Rudy, and at one point in a loose ball, like Rudy fell down with Kendrick Williams pushing him over, and that was a play where Rudy Gobert kind of like scissor swept Kendrick Williams to put him into the ground, where it's like I don't recall if he got suspended for that or ejected for that, but he probably should have. And you look at last year, early in the season, when they're playing the Nuggets, Christian Brown just absolutely dunks on Rudy, I think, in transition. And then like he's celebrating at Rudy's face, and Rudy just gets pissed. He's like, "Oh, he's disrespecting me," and he kind of like swings at him, and he luckily just misses him and just kind of like hits him with his forearm instead. And that could have very easily been. I don't know how he didn't get ejected after that foul, and the Wolves end up coming back and winning. I think he gets a big stop, but like he has a history of lacking that composure when he gets mad, when he feels disrespected. And again, at this point, given who this team is and how much they really need him out there, they can't just be like, all right, well, we'll just have Cat play center, for the rest of the game. It's like they need him out there. He needs to know that he has to be better than that. And it sucks because, at this point, I don't want to say that's the only reason it costs cost Wolves this win. I'd probably blame a Mark Williams 3-pointer that his first of his career that went in that proved to be the difference. But yeah, it definitely hurt the Wolves for sure because they needed him, in that fourth quarter. They didn't have him, and he was playing really well. Like you said, Jaden, Julius, and Ant all hit him with some lobs or some beautiful drop offs. It seemed like that connectivity was really there. He just absolutely like pissed it away just because he got mad that he got hit in the face.
Yeah, they really needed him in that second half. He had 5 offensive rebounds in the 21 minutes he played because, like,
Yeah.
he's the biggest guy out there, and these are the type of matchups that he usually dominates and really was dominating. In him getting ejected in this game was just like to me the first big moment was the start of the game in the first quarter where the defense was just not the perimeter defense especially was not where it needs to be, and we already discussed that ad nauseum. And then the second big turning point once the Wolves kind of settled into the game was losing Rudy. That
Yeah.
just completely throws off, especially like it just completely throws off the rotations. The matchups you were trying to get to, all that stuff, like just goes away. So we can talk about shooting variance, defense, Rudy being ejected. It all kind of culminated into a pretty frustrating loss given the talent. I mean, just go read the names on the other side. Bryce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie, Oso Ighodaro, Ryan Dunn, Jordan Goodwin, and Jean-Marie Bouye. That's the team you just lost to. And every team's going to have bad losses. I'm not saying, but it's just like, you'd like to see just a little bit more. I mean, so many of these games, like if you let them score 4, if you held them to sub 50 points in the first half, like you did the second half, then you would have won this game going away probably. I don't know. It's been a frustrating existence, especially as we go into one of our last topics here is just the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's time to it's time to start talking about them in rarefied air. I know I have been one of the a type of person who's doubted. I still kind of don't understand how they're doing this, like how they're this good. And even to a certain extent, their title run last year, I think they got a bunch of injury breaks. I don't know who wins that game 7 if Tyrese doesn't get hurt. It felt like it was going to be Indiana, but certainly to 50-50. And Aaron Gordon getting hurt in that series between them also was a big break. But there's no asterisks when you win a title. They won the title. They were the best team from start to finish. So you don't take that away. And especially when they start the year 23-1, that's a 78 win pace. It feels like if they want to go for the record, they can go for it. If they want to win the NBA Cup along the way, they probably will. And there's a lot of parallels to the kind of Warriors dynasty in a lot of ways, like really starting with people like me that doubt that they could be as good as kind of their underlying numbers suggest that they are.
Yeah, it's we talk about 2016 Warriors. I mean, that year, for those of you maybe who weren't following the NBA as closely or kind of forgot, I mean, man, Ryan, that's basically 10 years ago. That's basically 10
Hmm.
years ago was when they were going on that run where, they were destined to go to the finals. I don't think there was anyone that was worried like, oh, well, I don't know, James Harden might be able to upset them. It's like, no, they were, they were very clearly going to the finals that year. And I think it's the same for the Thunder this year where it's like, oh, I don't know. The Nuggets, gave them 7 last year where it's like, even this year, I mean, they're just absolute buzzsaw. I mean, every number, every advanced metric you look at. I mean, if you're a Wolves fan and you're worried about like, okay, well, how good are the Thunder? I encourage you not to look at their defensive numbers because the Thunder defensive metrics are insane right now. Imagine, I'll put it in Wolves terms. Imagine how the Wolves play defense in the second half or in the fourth quarter. The Thunder play like that, but better for 4 quarters, basically, is what they're doing. So it's pretty crazy. And I think the problem is for this year in terms of, you talk about the 2016 Warriors. We always knew that they were on a collision course with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And even though the Cavs probably weren't going to beat them, they still had, what a lot of people assumed at the time, that LeBron was probably the best player in the league at the time. And they were trying to restock them with as many, has-beens or role players or shooters as they can. And so you knew that they were probably going to beat them there. And again, the Warriors had just lost to LeBron in the finals. Granted, they didn't have Kevin Durant freaking in his prime at the time. But yeah, I think the problem with this year is that there isn't a LeBron-like East team that's waiting for them at the end of the tunnel. Again, maybe that's Jokic on the West standing in their way instead, or maybe it's ironically Kevin Durant on the Rockets standing in their way. I doubt it. But again, on the East, you think about once they make it out of the West, or if when they make it out of the West, it should be pretty easy run for them just to kind of cruise to a finals victory there. So yeah, it's scary. It's scary for sure.
And from the Wolves' perspective, it's just, especially watching him like tonight, it's just so impossible to like imagine what beating them in the series would look like from the Wolves. And again, there's a lot of season left, but it's really starting to like, like I don't even know how. It feels like it'd be a close to an impossible task. And your mind turns to like, well, if that is true, what's next? Do you try to beat them next year? Well, why are they going to be worse next year? I don't know. It feels like they're going to be the next big next big team. I mentioned the Warriors dynasty, so did you. It was 10 seasons ago, was that 15-16 season.
Right, I do have to correct myself. I said 2016 Warriors. That was the team that the 73 win team that lost in the finals. I was talking about the 2017 team once they added Kevin Durant. But again, point kind of still stands is that like, yeah, they're destined for the run unless they lose like half their starters to blown out, Achilles and quads and ACLs and stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the Thunder title from last year is very similar to that first Warriors title, where they are a very good team. The Warriors kind of break onto the scene. Go ask like Barkley and those guys, like jump shooters. A lot of people doubting that OKC team. A lot of people doubting that first Warriors team. And then they follow up the championship, and like I talked about the OKC injury luck. The Warriors in the finals. Kevin Love got hurt for the Cavs in the first round, and then Kyrie gets hurt during that series. And the next year, the Warriors, they started out like 30-0 or something dumb. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
And the Wolves beat them that year. The year they set the wins record. The Wolves had one of those.
Shout out Shabazz Muhammad.
Yeah. But OKC now is kind of on that 70-plus win pace, similar to the 2016 team. And you almost kind of got to hope that they don't follow that 2016 path, because you talk about Kevin Durant. Well, the parallel basically would be like if the Warriors or the Thunder lost the finals this year and like the Knicks or someone, the Knicks is probably the best parallel, come back from 3-1 down or whatever. And then the OKC would just go trade for, that's the scary part, is like if OKC does somehow lose the finals, they'll just go trade for like, they could get, if they wanted Giannis, I'm pretty convinced that they could
easily get,
I mean, they couldn't because of the money, because like they don't have the salaries to match. Other than giving away
Sam
their top
Presti
three,
could do any black magic. Sam Presti could find a way somehow.
Here, let me rephrase. They couldn't do it without keeping Jalen Williams out.
Sure.
I don't like financially. There's just not really like they have the picks to do it, Milwaukee. But yeah, so it's very similar, and I think the OKC for a while is going to be the big bad. I don't think they're invincible. I certainly think that like they are a much better regular season team than a playoff team, and that doesn't mean they're a bad playoff team. It means that they're not the greatest team in the history of basketball. Like their regular season numbers indicate that they are. That like they're Like you mentioned, their defense, like their regular season numbers are that of the '90s Bulls, those Warriors teams. So it's scary, and I think a lot of NBA people are kind of wondering, like especially you think about a Giannis trade. Like, do the Spurs want to go try to get Giannis and fight now, or do you want to try to wait out this OKC thing? I don't think there is something to wait out either. They're gonna be good for a while.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a long season. It's really hard for a team to ever sustain this type of level of play for a course of an entire 82 games, but it surely looks like they are right now. But yeah, we're still in that just past that quarter mark of the season. So
exactly. All right, let's give our 2 words. Leo, what do you got?
my 2 words are stay engaged. I feel like the Wolves are playing with their fans a little bit by playing really shitty first half basketball and then really ramping it up. I know for me watching it, my wife sees me just kind of just are you serious? Just like any type of frustration, just that first half and the second half. I'm like, oh, come on. She just sees me kind of losing it. I feel like the Wolves' lack of engagement of taking games seriously in the first half is taking its toll on the fans because now they're feeling a lack of engagement as well. It's just like, well, why the hell am I even bothering watching this game when I know they're gonna play like crap in the first half? And so, it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, are you going to stay engaged? Would I rather watch a Wolves try and climb out of a big hole in the second half, or do I want to enjoy my evening doing something else? And so I urge that just like the fans need to stay engaged, I need the Wolves to stay engaged for entire duration of a game, starting from the first buzzer all the way to the last buzzer. So stay engaged is my 2 words. Ryan, what about you?
I got easy schedule. And I'm more looking kind of as I'm a big schedule analyzer type of guy. So the way the schedule works is you play every Eastern Conference team twice. You play every division opponent 4 times, and then the rest of the non-division West teams, the Wolves play either a combination of 4 times or 3 times. When what ends up happening, unless the NBA Cup kind of gets in the way, but you play 4 teams only 3 times. And the reason why the Wolves schedule is easy is because the 4 teams you would choose to play 1 fewer times are the exact 4 teams that the Wolves get. So they have to play OKC and Denver 4 times because they're in the division. But the next 4 highest teams, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Suns, are the teams that they play 3 times instead of 4. And obviously they don't play themselves. So that's of the top 7 teams in the West, only the Thunder and the Nuggets you play 4 times. So that is kind of why they before the Pelicans back-to-back games, they still had one of the easiest schedules remaining in the Western Conference because of this stuff, because they ended up getting an easy schedule this year. Now the 2 NBA Cup replacement games are the Warriors, who are not a bad team, and the other game is the Kings, who are a bad team. Shout out you, Leo, for the Kings. Hey. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like a cool stat that doesn't matter. But I was talking with a couple of the meeting members, the nightmare stretch that I think people think is coming. There's a 4-game stretch here, a 3-game, there's not some gauntlet coming. It's going to be spotted if they play exactly like they have from these first 24 games. They will be in the top 6. They'll be 6, but they'll be in the top 6, and they'll have a puncher's chance at a West Finals. And we already went over the OKC thing, but I think myself and the team and a lot of people are kind of tired of the just cupcake teams, and Phoenix is a little more complicated than that. But it'd be nice to play. I mean, they played the Lakers, but didn't play LeBron in either time. They played the Nuggets on the second half of back-to-back. They played OKC on a normal setting. That's fun. They played the Spurs without Wemby. The teams, I mean, certainly the teams I'm interested in seeing the Wolves compete against are the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, and the Spurs. And to a lesser extent, for opposite reasons, the Thunder and the Warriors. The Thunder because they're clearly better than the Wolves, and the Warriors because I think the Wolves are better than them. So it'd be nice to get some of those games and not have them be the only games. I hate back-to-backs. The fact that they have played Denver twice on back-to-backs is annoying. It's been a weird schedule year. Not as weird as last year, where they had the whole month of January. They didn't have a 2-game homestand the entire time. But every team has weird schedule quirks. So obviously, pointing it out even as much as I did isn't necessarily worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but the Wolves' toughest opponent really is themselves. Like, I'm not saying that, like, all joking aside, because they have to find it within them. I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't be winning games. And like you said, there isn't going to be some monster stretch where they're playing like, 6 or 7 of those teams in a row that, we're worried about them not being better than. And so they really have to, test themselves and really push themselves to not be their own worst enemy, as they have proven to be multiple times, even though the record might not show it at first glance. I mean, look at games like this and they've imploded, whether it's Rudy, trying to take out Mark Williams, whether it's Ant and Julius forgetting how to inbound a ball. There's a lot of things that they've done to kind of hurt themselves. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully with, them being able to fix things up with a not so hard schedule.
Yeah, and I think to a degree the Wolves will. I'm really the again the 2 seed is a really good prize that is up
Mhm.
for grabs, and it feels like the Wolves are 2 or 3 games behind the pace where they should be. Where we'll see if that ends up costing them. But I mean, I'm fairly confident of what we've seen, that the Wolves are at least as good as they were last year,
Yep.
or maybe at the very lower, slightly worse, and that's fine. And they could win. They get the right playoff matchups and get hot. They certainly could make a West Finals, or maybe that might even be Denver's really good. But like,
Yeah.
it's what I felt like coming into the year is like, and really last year too. It's like they clearly weren't as good as. I mean, last year especially, they clearly weren't as good as the Thunder. We need to see areas that they are like improving from last year. And obviously there's small areas, but like on the whole, it doesn't feel like those are there yet. And so as much as like concerning as this loss was, or pick your other concerning loss, it's really just I want to find out more about this team. Can
Yep.
they, especially from now until the deadline, which is another time that they could potentially, like all teams, shake something up.
Hmm.
I'm interested to see is like, does this team have a gear that last year's team doesn't? Um,
Yeah.
and 24 games into the season, the answer to that is no. Let's play another 24 and see if the answer changes.
Yeah, they have a short week, which is those 2 games, so cup game makeups against 2 West Coast teams, and one on the West Coast, one in Minnesota. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's time to find out.
Yep, and a long homestand for better or worse. After the Friday game in Sacramento, or in Golden State,
Golden
we'll come
State.
home for Sacramento. Um, yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Should have another episode for you guys at the second half of this week before Leo and I are back in your ears early time next week. But for Leo, I'm Ryan. Thank you everyone for listening.
Get home and drive safe.
Go Wolves.
Ayoo!